Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Vegas 46, Calvin Kattar versus Giga Chikadze. And Shaq, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, the first UFC event of 2022. And I mean, dude, we got a banger. Last year, the first event of the year was Calvin Kattar versus Max Holloway. I mean, what a performance by Holloway. Kattar's taken a full year off to recover. I think that's the proper amount of time back. The only thing is Giga Chikadze ain't exactly a warm-up or a tune-up fight for anyone. So this fight's going to let us know exactly where both these men stand in the contendership rankings for the featherweight division. I mean, you got Volk versus Zombie coming up, and I have a feeling that the winner of this fight comes out here and makes a statement. They're going to be right up there in the running for a title shot.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. I mean, when you got the type of guys like Calvin, Kattar, and Giga, the type of strikes these guys throw, you know, Calvin's known for his hands, his power in his hands. We've seen some of his vicious knockouts, Jeremy Stevens, Shane Burgos, and Giga Chikadze has been on a roll lately. I mean, look at these last two, Cub Swanson and Edson Barbosa, so, you know, somewhat legends of the sport, and he took care of them very easily. We know he's from Glory back in the day, serious kickboxer. You know, I actually met him in Atlanta back in the day.
We both did.
And, you know, it's good to see him bounce back from the Austin Springer fight. And I mean, he's been on a roll ever since, man. He's putting these guys down. So I'm super excited. And it's a pivotal fight, man, because if Giga wins this fight, he could be in line for a title shot.
I mean, the thing that I like about the work Giga's been putting in is that this isn't like his second UFC fight, and he's fighting Calvin Kattar in the main event. We're already dealing with a guy who is on, you know, a 7-fight win streak. Is it more than that? Is it 8-fight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, yeah, 7-fight win streak in the UFC. So he actually has more wins in the UFC than Calvin. Now, granted, Calvin's wins are of a higher quality. I mean, we're talking about Calvin's out here knocking out Shane Burgos, destroying Dan Ige, knocking Jeremy Stevens face into the 10th row. I mean, the wins on Calvin Kattar's resume, the guy's truly paid his dues, made his UFC debut against Andre Fili, for Christ's sake. So, I mean, I would say that Calvin Kattar is one of the best boxers in the featherweight division, one of them. And that right hand is money, but I mean, just like his right hand is money, you already know about that Giga kick to the liver, to the head, to the legs, and no sleep on his hands either. So this is going to be a dynamic striking match, and I'm curious to see who shoots the first takedown.
Yeah, man. And you know, I like the co-main event too. I mean, you got Jake Collier and Chase. You know, the two big heavyweights. They're gonna throw it down. Is that the co-main event, or is the Chook?
You know, they weren't allowed to let Chook be a co-main event.
The Chook. Yeah, I'm super excited about that heavyweight fight. It's gonna be a slobber knocker, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the choices were, hey, put the big boys in the co-main event. Listen, Chase and Jake, yeah, you know, there might be some MMA Twitter sense of humor regarding these two, but at least like most of their fights,
should have put Royval in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it wasn't Chase and Jake, because you know they need the big boys there. Yeah. Royval and Bontorin are probably gonna put on a show too. So those are some 3 fights that we definitely got to look out for. There's also some prospects on here making their UFC debuts. Joanderson, Brito. There's supposed to be Clayton Rodriguez. Unfortunately, he had to pull out. But yeah, I'm excited to break down this whole card, start to finish. So let's get right down to business. Everybody smash that like button. Everybody do us a favor. Retweet my tweet. Let everybody know that we're live right now. And let's get down to business, because first up in the featherweight division, we got a match between Brian Kelleher. He's 23-12, and he's taking on Kevin Croom, who is 21-13. And currently, they got Brian Kelleher minus 300. The comeback on Kevin Croom is plus 250. So, I mean, look, man, we're dealing with two grizzled vets. I mean, like, when you read these records, Brian Kelleher 23-12, Kevin Croom 21-13. I mean, these guys have seen pretty much all there is to see in this sport. And to an extent, they have somewhat similar, I wouldn't say styles, but more so their patented finishing moves are pretty similar. Like, these guys have disgusting guillotines, especially Kevin Croom in that early going. My issue with Croom is that, look, I definitely got to respect the fact that he's got the vet tactics. He's been there. He's done that. He's been in there with so many damn tough people. He trains under James Krause. And in the early going, man, I mean, if you get caught in one of those chokes, this guy, he'll get you out of there. It's just with his style of fighting, he exerts so much energy, and as a result, he tends to fade as fights progress. And being that he took this fight on 2 weeks' notice, that gives me an inclination to believe that he's going to come out here, try to sell out for that early sub. And if that doesn't happen, that's where Kelleher is going to kind of drag this into those deep waters and go out there and win the decision or finish him. Now, here's the path to victory for Croom. We talked about that guillotine. Kelleher has been submitted in the first round more than once. Now, I understand Montel Jackson and Chito Vera are on a different level than Kevin Croom. I wouldn't consider those guys journeymen. You know, I'd consider Marlon Chito Vera a top 10 contender, and I consider Montel a talented prospect. So,
a big fight coming up.
Yeah, against the not bad Gary. I'm excited for that one. I can't wait to see what happens. So Brian Kelleher, I think he's got more past the victory here, man. I think both guys can get that early submission, but I think that the longer the fight goes, that's where Brian Kelleher is really gonna, like you said, turn up that junkyard dog, mix in the calf kick, start to bruise him up a little bit, and pull away late. So give me Brian Kelleher to come out here and win this fight.
Man, I was really looking forward to the fight with Kakramanov, man, because you know he was definitely a more talented prospect. Croom, junkyard dog, he's been around a while. I've seen him in Bellator. He fought John Teixeira, got beat up pretty good in that fight. You know, he's just yeah, I agree with what you're saying, man. I think Kelleher should be in better shape. Not saying that this guy doesn't train. I'm sure he's in the gym all the time, but I honestly think, you know, Croom, you know, his win over Roosevelt, I mean, that was like, Roosevelt was, you know, I don't know what, Roosevelt, I hope he gets his things, you know, his stuff together and he comes back. You know, I think he's at 170 now. Maybe that's going to help him out. But I think that Croom isn't really UFC level, man. I think Kelleher has solidified himself. I mean, he gives, you know, the guys he loses to a decent fight like Cody Stamann and Ricky Simon. Like he, you know, it was a respectable outing. It wasn't like he got absolutely, you know, dominated in every sense. So I think he comes out here, man, and he just kind of, like you said, like gets better on as the fight progresses and kind of exposes some of the grappling, you know, get on top and do his thing. We can't forget that knockout win over Hunter Azor too. I mean, he put him down stiff. Henan Barao victory. I mean, Kelleher can fight, man. It's just these prospects like Montel, Lineker. I mean, those type of guys, you know, we can't put them in.
And I like the fact that in that last fight against Domingo Pilarte, now on one hand, you can be like, well, dude, why don't you just go out there and starch him? The kid gets dropped every fight. But I like the fact that, you know, he didn't take any risks standing. You know, Domingo Pilarte is super long for the weight class. You dive in from a mile out, the chokes might be there, but man, Brian Kelleher was able to show a different part of his game, go out there, stack multiple takedowns, which is something that you haven't often see him do in a lot of his fights.
He beat Arce twice too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with a guy that fought Jimmy Rivera in Bellator. That's how long. That's how long he's been doing his thing. So, yeah, I want to actually pull up the takedown numbers. Yeah, exactly. He went out there that last fight. All he needed was 3 takedowns, 1 takedown per round. Domingo Pilarte couldn't get back up. So it was cool to see kind of a grinding style from Kelleher when we're used to him having that opportunistic guillotine. We're used to him going out there with those calf kicks, breaking guys down further down the stretch. So it was cool to see him implement some new parts of his game. The reason I bring that up is because I think a lot of people held it against him that he didn't finish Pilarte, but he absolutely dominated him. So again, Kevin Croom always has a chance early in fights, but I truly suspect that as the fight progresses, Kelleher takes over. Also in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between downtown TJ Brown. He's 15-8. He's taking on Charles Boston Strong Rosa, who is 14-6. And Rosa is taking this fight on a couple days short notice. Initially, they wanted Rosa to step in and fight Topuria. But, you know, this is one of those cases where, you know, shout out to Charles Rosa's management for this is a more, you know, I'm not going to say favorable matchup, but more evenly matched fight than Topuria. So I'm happy that, you know, they decided to take this one, and as a result, he got a new 4-fight contract with the UFC. So I'm happy to see that. The odds, here's where I'm kind of on the fence. TJ Brown minus 250, the comeback on Charles Rosa plus 210. Now, while I do think that TJ Brown is actually better than he showed in the UFC, like it's one of those things where it's like he'll be winning minutes of fights, he'll even be dominating guys at times, but his chin isn't the best. He gets dropped a lot in fights. I've seen him get tapped out with some things that, you know, a guillotine from side control. I was like, wow. You know,
I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, after dominating the guy too. You know, I've seen him dismantle with leg kicks, and then a lot of people actually thought that Kai Kamaka might have won that fight. But I'll give TJ credit, whether you scored it for him or not. At least it was a hard fought battle, man. So, and he looked better at least. So you got to give him that. And the path to victory with Charles Rosa has, you know, always been there. I mean, this guy will not stuff takedowns. He's overly confident in his jiu-jitsu game. You can neutralize this guy. And I think TJ Brown is going to neutralize this guy. It's just, I personally don't feel comfortable laying minus 250, minus 270 on TJ for the sole fact that, I mean, he can be dominating a fight and then just get dropped out of nowhere. He is known for his stunts, but if this was a pick'em fight, then I got TJ because I think he's going to outwork Charles Rosa. It's just, you know, the comeback finish or, you know, the stunt, the fluke. That's what you got to look out for here. But yeah, TJ should be favored. I just don't quite think to this extent, but I still am picking him to win this fight.
Well, you know, I feel like he's favored for, you know, for a few this much for a few specific reasons, man. I mean, when you look at Charles Rosa lately, it hasn't been pretty. I mean, he got the win over Bermudez in Boston. You know, he's undefeated in Boston. If this fight was in Boston, then, you know, maybe something would be a little bit different here. But, you know, I think I mean, Derek Minner controlled this guy for 15 minutes, and we know the type of stunts Derek Minner pulls in the late rounds. And I mean, Derek Minner had smooth sailing. So, you know, we got another stunt puller here, TJ Brown. He should be smooth sailing as well, man. TJ's way more physical, way stronger.
And he's
fought
James Krause. James Krause works with Minner and with TJ Brown.
Exactly. So he's got the blueprint here, man. And all, like you said, 100%, he does get dropped a lot, but look at the hitters we're talking about. I mean, Chavez is at least like an agile, fast calf kicker. Like Kai Kamaka and him had a decent fight. You know, Kai Kamaka is a heavy hitter. Like he, you know, has power. I don't think Charles Rosa just those side kicks from the outside, and you know the Elias strategy, the tip and run, and you know and hustle, and you know give it your all, and that's respectable, man. Charles is look, he's kept his job a long time. That's you know, a very good accomplishment for him. But I agree with the line, man. I think TJ Brown, at least, you know, honestly, man, sometimes I feel like we overreact in these decisions, because when I rewatched the fight with Kamaka, it was a good fight, man. The first 2 rounds were close. I thought, you know, he hung in there, man. He recovered from getting dropped. But like Kai Kamaka, just look at him, man. That dude's big. Like Charles Rosa doesn't pose threats like that, man. His best days are behind him. It's a good thing he didn't fight Topuria, man. That's all I'm saying. And so I'm going with TJ Brown. I think he might get a finish here.
Really,
his first finish.
Charles is tough to finish,
man, because like he was getting ready for a war with Mowgli, and Mowgli, like that was a real test in my opinion for him, because Mowgli, you know, can still fire off some good shots. So he was getting ready for that. I feel like this is a way better situation coming in, you know, for him, you know, for his career, you know, like wins and losses. Like Mowgli, I didn't know if he was gonna beat Mowgli, but you know, here I think he's good.
My thing with Mowgli is he's got to figure out this weight thing. This is like the 3rd time in a row where, like, on fight week, I heard behind the scenes he was trying to get that 150-pound catch weight for like the 3rd time, and they're like, dude, like,
why does he keep doing that?
Like, stop. Like, can you just move up to 55s, dude?
Just
like,
move up, yeah.
So yeah, I hope Mowgli does the right things, because I'm a fan of him as well. But yeah, I'm going TJ Brown here as well. So yeah, just don't be dominating the fight and then do something stupid, you know? Yeah. So next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Ramiz Brahimaj. He's 9-3. He's taking on Court McGee, who is 20-10. And currently they got it a dead pick 'em. Court McGee -110, Ramiz Brahimaj -110. Someone said Jourdain's fighting Topuria. No, I saw Jourdain throw his name in the hat, but I don't know if they are trying to go in that direction. Well, that remains to be seen. I personally hope they just reschedule Topuria and Evloev. Right. It's too good of a fight.
Don't try to get a different matchup now.
Exactly. But anyways, back to Ramiz and Court McGee. So obviously Court McGee, I mean, such a grizzled vet of the sport. In the octagon, outside the octagon. I mean, this is him and Matt Brown came back from death. I mean, these guys are true warriors through and through. I mean, we're dealing with a guy with Court McGee, won the Ultimate Fighter, beat guys like Brad Tavares on the Ultimate Fighter, comes to the UFC, beat Robert Whitaker. I mean, the dude, like Court McGee's been there, man. And the thing about him is he's tough, he's durable, and I know he's getting up there in age. He's, you know, slowing down a little bit. Maybe the durability isn't what it once was, but one thing about him is if you gas out on a guy like Court McGee, that's where he's known to really put that pressure on you. And here's my thing with Ramiz Brahimaj. So I think that when he's fresh, like at times, like he's kind of a phenom on the mat at times while he's fresh, man. And like some of the things I see him do, I'm super impressed by. My only concern with Ramiz is that I don't think there's much of a plan B, and I'm not talking about, you know, humping someone and then, you know, yeah, I'm not talking about that kind of plan B. I'm talking about that if the early grappling isn't going to work, the striking isn't quite there. It hasn't caught up. I mean, don't get me wrong. The guy, he's a big athletic dude. He can knock people out. It's just, I don't think the process in the standing is quite there like it is on the mat. And I truly believe that if you go to Fortis where he trains, he's probably one of the hardest roles on the mat in the gym. I mean, this guy is a beast on the mat. It's just that with that being said, when it takes a lot of energy to grapple, man, constantly. And this guy will go all out, explosive takedowns, transitions, sweeps, submissions. So I love him on the mat. My only concern is that at Court McGee, you know, starts getting out of these spots, starts making them scramble a little bit. This hits the second and third round. You know, that's where Ramiz might start shooting from a mile out. That's where Ramiz might kind of show that body language that the judges don't quite like. But then on the other hand, Court is 37, Ramiz is like 29, so maybe he's figured these things out. I mean, he trains with the right people. Fortis MMA coach Saif Sayud, they're not idiots. They've got to know that this is something they had to address. But how much can you truly change a man's style? Like that's so. This is a tough one for me to call because, okay, yes, there is validity to the claim that Ramiz gasses in fights, but there's also a couple of misconceptions too. Like, for example, the first fight he lost to Evan Cutts, I actually low-key thought he won that fight. And he actually did show success like in the third round. So I don't think it's as black and white and saying all you got to do is get Ramiz out the first round and you're automatically going to win. I don't think it's that simple, but I do think that Court McGee can make him work. So yeah, it's either going to be a Ramiz early finish or a back and forth war. And I could see Ramiz winning that back and forth war by having those good moments along the way, getting that last minute takedown, doing some you know, exciting stuff on the mat. Court McGee, it's always been meat potatoes. So if Ramiz doesn't have like just an extreme cardio dump, I see Ramiz getting it done, but that is my concern. There is no plan B. There's only a plan A, and Court is experienced enough to weather storms from greener opponents. But I'm going to lean with youth here, and I'm going to go with Ramiz. I don't want to say reluctantly. It's just he's got to come out here and, you know, fight his best fight.
Man, you know, I'm gonna actually, you know, have more confidence in the side. Yeah, I think this is a good fight for Brahimaj, man. Like, you know, when I really watched Court McGee's last few fights, like, you know, the last fight against
Hannibal
Silva. I mean, Hannibal Silva is older than Court McGee. Hannibal Silva is towards the tail end of his career. Hannibal Silva, his best days are not behind him. Ramiz Brahimaj is young. He's up and coming. He's experienced in the LFA. He's had fights, like you said, against Evan Cutts and Justin Patterson, guys that, you know, respectable records. You know, sometimes young fighters lose to vets on the local scene, man. You have to learn. And I think his fight against Max Griffin, even though he got his ear torn off and you know, he got beat up towards the end of that, man. I thought it was a very good showing against a guy and Max Griffin who's in the prime of his career right now. Max Griffin beat Carlos Condit when, you know, Court McGee fought Carlos Condit. You know, Court McGee looked, you know, he didn't look too good. You know, Carlos Condit had his way with him, and Carlos Condit, you know, is retired. You know, in the last fight was against a 39-year-old. So. And then really, you know, Court's known for pushing the pace and you know, hustling and outworking guys. But to be honest, man, I see a guy that's standing back on the outside and kickboxing a lot. I mean, that's what all he did against Court. And the fight with Hannibal Silva, you know, he had a good run, beat Leon, but you know, he's up there in age now, and you know, you know, he's not known for his technique. Just put it that way. You know, it was a decent matchup. So, you know, I think Ramiz, honestly, coming off that fight with Sasha, putting him to sleep, the momentum is in his favor, in my opinion. I think he's feeling the most confident he ever has. I think that he's training at a good camp with guys like Jeff Morano, and these guys are vouching for him, man. I feel like at some point the talent is gonna match up. So I think he's gonna come out here and actually make a statement, man, and finish Court McGee, man. I think Court McGee, he still was getting rocked in that fight with Hannibal Silva. Like occasionally, it's just Hannibal can't really maintain. He doesn't protect himself, man. He just like what I saw in the Max Griffin fight. I saw a guy that can at least stand in the pocket versus a much faster, sharper, physical. Like it was just a lot more a lot more higher level, a lot tougher, rougher in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with Ramiz to get a finisher.
And shout out to my boy MMA Locker Room. He's just here to remind us that the Braves won the World Series. So, you know, remind me as much as you want, my man.
And the Bulldogs, man. We're getting chips, man.
And didn't the ATL United win it in 2018 too?
They
so
sure did.
Hey, what curse?
I need to go check out one of them games, man.
Shout out to
my boy Joseph Martinez.
Oh yeah, he's a pimp, man. Shout out to Narco Cop. He's ready to destroy 2022. Appreciate you, man. He's always been a longtime supporter of ours. So yeah, we truly appreciate you guys being here with us. My boy said, did I make it in time for Collier versus Sherman? Hey, you got good news. That's the co-main event, so you did make it here in time. But before we talk about Collier versus Sherman, now we got to talk about Jamie Pickett versus Joseph Holmes. So Jamie Pickett, he's 12-6. He's taking on Joseph Holmes, who is 7-1. And currently they got well, it just depends where you look, man. I see a -150 on Holmes, you know, around the Bet Online Bovada area, but then I see a -126 on Holmes in Pinnacle. So it just depends where you look. You know, the comeback on Jamie Pickett, you know, +127, +128-ish. I see a +135 on that Canadian book Sports Interaction, but yeah, so you guys get the deal. But basically, the way I view this fight is that, you know, Jamie Pickett is definitely a guy that's paid his dues. I mean, on the regional scene, you know, he actually beat NFC middleweight champion Doug Usher back in the day, and Doug's like on a big ass run these days. He's won like fucking I mean, basically Doug Usher, the win streak he's on right now since the Pickett fight. I mean, he went from being 4-3 to now he's 13-3. You understand what I'm saying? So that's quite a run. But my criticisms for Pickett is that, okay, look, he's got the size, he's explosive, he's a big boy, he's an athlete, he hits hard, and he's experienced. So I can't take anything away from him there. But not to bring up like MMA math, but like when Charles Byrd finished you in the first round and when Jordan Wright finished you in the first round, that's when I kind of have questions about how far he can truly take this at this level. I mean, I think back in LFA and NFC and all these places that he can go out there and do his thing, but at the UFC level, I think it's going to be a lot tougher. And even the fight he won against Laureano, not only is Laureano in the wrong weight class, but I mean, that was a shitty fight, man. But hey, a win's a win. Here's the thing with Holmes. There's a lot of things I like about him, and then there's questions I have. The things I like: middleweight, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. He's a big boy for middleweight. And another thing I like is that, you know, he goes out there, he wins his fight on Contender Series, submits his opponent, and Dana could have signed him right then and there, but Dana was like, hey, let me see this guy get one more fight under his belt. They put him in looking for a fight, and he knocks out his opponent in the first round. So I've seen this guy submit people. I've seen him knock him out with one punch. So I like what I'm seeing. I'm just not quite ready to sit here and, you know, when I saw Jamal Hill the first time, I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to be someone. Whereas Holmes, I'm not saying he is or he isn't. I just kind of need to see a little bit more, but I like what I've seen. I just feel like he hasn't truly been tested in his fights quite yet. That's why the hesitation. I do kind of lean towards Joseph Holmes, man. I mean, I think he's going to have some physical advantages, and I guess it's speculative to say that I think he might be the tougher guy here if the going gets tough, you know, if this hits deep waters, because I have seen Pickett fold up more than once. So I'm going to go with Joseph Holmes here, man. But again, I still want to sit back and see exactly what this guy brings to the table at the UFC level, before I'm willing to make a projection of how far I think he can take it. Like again, the reason I bring up the Hill example is because the first time I saw him, I was like, oh yeah, this is a future top 5 guy. I knew right off the bat. The first time I saw Sodiq Yusuff, I was like, yeah, this is a future top 10 guy. But Holmes, let's see a little bit more. This is a good litmus test and a good entry level debut fight, and let's see how he handles it. So I'm gonna go with Joseph Holmes to come out here and beat Jamie Pickett.
Yeah, Pickett, I've been watching him fight for a while. This is a good fight. You got the young guy versus the not very good, somewhat experienced guy. He's got experience. He was in there with Puna. He was in there with Tafon Dadon. He was in there with Jordan Wright. So he was in there
Puna,
with Puna. So he's been in there with some very good guys. He's seen a lot more. Joseph Holmes seems from his Contender Series fight, he seemed talented. I mean, long arms. Seems like he knows what he's doing for sure. But you could definitely see he's green. He's not very experienced. But Jamie Pickett's gonna have to hope for some type of UFC jitters mixed in with, maybe he can tie him up on the fence a little bit. I mean, Jamie's athletic; he can do it. I heard he's seeing a therapist from what I heard in the last fight against Staropoli. But Staropoli,
that's a good move for him though. Yeah, like that's what he should have done. So good for him.
He's seeing a therapist, so maybe he got his first UFC win, but it was a terrible fight. But that was more so due to Staropoli. I mean, Staropoli is just that kid is out the UFC. So I think. I look, it's tough to lay chalk on some of these guys. I agree. I didn't necessarily get that, oh, this guy's a future, this and that. But it could possibly be a good, these are the type of fights Jamie Pickett, because he ain't gonna be, a Tafon level or a Puna level. Like, he's gonna have to beat a young, inexperienced kid and possibly try to weasel a decision. But I'm gonna go the other way. I just think Jamie, when I watch him, man, I've been watching Jamie actually for a long time, and man, he just always has had an issue with pulling the trigger. But maybe one of these days, the mental clicks. I just think it's more of a mental clicks. But I don't know if you can trust Holmes at chalk. Like, this ain't a. I remember that.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. All right, keep going.
Yeah, this was, he didn't have like a Jimmy Flick, Sean O'Malley type performance on the Contender Series where it was like, oh my gosh, this kid's a future, star. But I think he'll probably just outwork him. A close fight, back and forth in the clinch, and probably lackluster, but we'll see, man. I think Pickett has experience, so that it has to be, sometimes experience weighs a lot in this game, man. So you got to be careful.
Absolutely. So, all right. So before we talk about the main card, which is what's about to happen, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, PrizePicks. But before I do that, everybody do us a huge favor: smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. We truly appreciate it. And also, let people know on Twitter that we're out here and we're back. So, guys, before I talk about the main card, I got to talk about the official fantasy sports partner of Half the Battle, which is PrizePicks. And I've told you guys 100 times, I think that PrizePicks is the simplest and easiest way to make money on daily fantasy sports. All our listeners, you guys receive an 100% instant deposit match up to $100 on PrizePicks. Download the app or go to prizepicks.com. And it's literally the simplest fantasy game on the market. I mean, you pick 2 to 5 players from any sport. I mean, it's not like you have to make a 6-fighter lineup and then you have to make your 6 player lineup for NBA and NFL, keep them all separate. PrizePicks, fucking combine them. Find an edge in one sport, find an edge in another sport, and take it from there. I mean, like, dude,
you got the playoffs coming up. Football.
You got playoffs. You got Giga Chikadze. You think Giga's the real deal, or you don't think he's the real deal? Take over and under on his significant strikes. You see some grapplers on this card that you don't think are, dude. The Muniz over under on significant strikes last card was like 25 to 30 something. I'm like, Muniz doesn't throw strikes, so you smash those unders, and then football's coming up. I mean, how do you think Mahomes is going to do? How do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to do? How do you think the GOAT Tom Brady is going to do? Take those over-unders, combine them, and go to town, guys. Because, like, for example, in some of these college football projections that they've been doing, man, they set some of their rush yards at minus 7.5. So, like, all my guy needs to do is, like, get 0 or sit on the bench and I win. All my guy needs to do is get minus 6.5 yards and I win. Like, so, like, when you see spots like that, you have to hammer it and then combine it with that one UFC spot where you feel like you have the edge. No need to force anything, but take advantage of these spots where they're truly overlooking or underlooking some of these players, man. So make sure y'all go to prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app in the App Store. I mean, they got the 4.8 star ratings, rave reviews. They're the real deal. I highly vouch for them. So go to prizepicks.com, download the app, use the code BATTLE for an 100% deposit match up to $100. And let me know what kind of entries y'all are doing these days, man, because we've been cashing out on PrizePicks. So I highly recommend y'all join us on this. That's PrizePicks. Use the code BATTLE. Thank you guys very much. All right, main card time. First up in the featherweight division, we got the UFC debut of Joanderson Brito. He's 12-2. He's taking on Bill Algeo, who is 14-6. And currently they got, it just depends where you look. Joanderson Brito, I mean, I see everywhere from minus 120 to minus 140, and the comeback on Bill Algeo is around, between plus 105 to plus 115. Firstly, I got to tell you what kind of respect I have for Bill Algeo. I understand that he's 1-3 inside the octagon, but every single fight he's made his opponents work, and he kind of reminds me of like a more durable Julian Rosa in a way. He's got that long man body type, fights with his hands down. His chin ain't half bad. Well, that's the difference here. He's got the chin that Julian Rosa doesn't. But look, this guy's long. He can pop out that jab. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And one thing I like about him is that he's relentless. He comes forward the entire time. You can take this guy down 8 times in a single fight, like his last one. And I mean, he's going to keep walking forward. And so your cardio needs to be on point to fight a guy like Bill Algeo, because he's just that long, lanky, awkward guy to deal with that's going to be there the entire time. But on the flip side of that, he's not the most physical guy. And that's where I think Joanderson Brito can take advantage, because this kid, Joanderson Brito, comes from the Shoot to Box Academy, but I don't think he's got that traditional shoot to box style, man. I mean, when you think of the traditional shoot to box guys, you think of the Thomas Almeidas, Felipe Sertanejo Aranches, a lot more, even Vanderlei Silva back in the day. But then they also got guys like Charles do Bronx Oliveira, who doesn't necessarily have the typical shoot to box style. And I think Joanderson Brito is another one of these guys that kind of brings something different to the table. He's more of like, he's a ridiculous athlete, super explosive. And I kind of get these vibes that he can be one of these guys where he doesn't have that conventional process that people like to see. He's more of a guy that he can take minutes off a fight, but when he explodes, I mean, it's like Davison Figueiredo, it's like Yoel Romero, but the kid's making his debut. So, we still got to see how he performs in the octagon, but I love his top control. I love his ground and pound. I love his just how fierce and determined he is to go out there and put it on his opponents, man. And I think that he could be someone that we might look at as a future contender. So I know it's too early to say right now, but from what I've seen, I really like this kid a lot. And I think this is one of the more brighter UFC debuts that we've had in quite some time. I know Clayton Rodriguez was supposed to fight on this card, and I was looking forward to that debut a lot as well. But I think that Joanderson Brito, like the reason I bring up the Figgy and the Yoel Romero examples is because it's like they fight in a very unconventional style that, like I said, people might question their process if you're used to traditional fighting styles. This guy's different. He brings something else to the table, but his explosiveness, his power, his physicality can make up for a lot. But then don't sleep on his technique too. Like I said, that ground and pound is nasty. His ground game is on point. He's got one-punch knockout power, flying knees. I like this guy. So, yeah, I mean, the concern would be, since he's so explosive and against a guy like Bill Algeo, who will be there in your face the entire time. I mean, shout out to my boy Bill Algeo cashing that plus 140. I believe were the odds against Spike Carlisle. So, I mean, I got nothing but good things to say about Bill. It's just I think Joanderson Brito is too physical for him. And Bill Algeo's given up nearly 20 takedowns in all 4 of his octagon appearances. I think Joanderson Brito will get those takedowns. I think he will be able to neutralize Algeo at times, but Algeo, man, he's going to get back up. He's going to make us work. But I think that Joanderson has enough to at least win 2 of these rounds, come out here and get this dub. So I put 2.5 units on Joanderson Brito at -125 to win 2 units, and that's my first bet of the night.
Yeah, man, it's a good fight. I think it's gonna be a tough fight. Algeo's tough. He definitely gives up a lot of takedowns. He's definitely, on the skinnier. He gets muscled a lot. But man, he's tough. Even though he gives up those takedowns, he gets back up. Joanderson looked good in his Contender Series fight. Big, powerful, strong. I think the kid he fought, kind of seems like he kind of had more of a jujitsu off his back type of game, and not very physical. So I see the angle, but I just think, you're in there with guys like Ramiz, Spike. I mean, these guys, I think Joanderson's definitely on that par. I slightly lean him as well. I think he should. I'm definitely worried that he's gonna gas. I mean, he's a big, muscly guy, man, and I saw signs of gassing against that kid on the Contender Series. And when I really wasn't impressed with that kid either. When I looked at his record, I actually saw that he lost his next fight as well. So I think Joanderson's big, strong, physical, should rough Algeo up, but I wouldn't be shocked if the length and the range down the stretch mixed in with the fatigue, if that possibly played a problem. Algeo throws knees, he throws elbows. I mean, he's a funky guy to deal with, man. So if Joanderson does get tired, I see trouble possibly. So I think it's going to be a tough, close fight. So, I'll take Brito just because, there's some of those explosions against that kid were like, whoa, but like, that kid really wasn't that strong to me. So we'll see what happens. I feel like Algeo's fought a much higher level, just a rougher guy, a tougher guy. So we'll see what happens. But I'll take Brito, but I think it's lined accurately. Like, I don't think it's, like Algeo's getting disrespected or Brito's like favored too low. Like, I think it's right.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to say about Brito before I forget. Yeah, I've mentioned his explosiveness, his takedowns, his power, all that stuff. But what about this kid's heart? There was like a deep ass anaconda attempt that he got put in that fight, and man, I love the defense he showed on that. It was actually very eye-opening. If you guys train jiu-jitsu and you want to know how to get out of an anaconda choke, watch Joanderson Brito's Contender Series fight, man, because that was very, very impressive. All right, next up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Dakota Bush. He's 8-3. He's taking on Viacheslav Borshev, who is 5-1. And currently, they got Viacheslav Borshev -180. The comeback on Dakota Bush is +155. So basically, when oftentimes when you think of Russians, you think that, man, that wrestling, that sambo, that grappling is going to be really on point. And it's actually kind of the opposite here with Borshev. He's more of a one-punch knockout artist. And his takedown defense actually isn't the best. And Dakota Bush, listen, he's paid his dues on the regional scene. He's decent everywhere. He hits hard. He's got some nice wrestling. It's just my thing with Dakota Bush is, okay, so you guys might vehemently disagree with this, and maybe this is irrelevant, but like, and I'll mention stylistically those things too in here in a sec. But I want to talk about something kind of off topic. So this dude's nickname Harry Bush. Now I understand. Oh, he's got a sense of humor. It's funny, this and that. But it kind of like low key makes me question like how seriously does this guy take himself, and like does he think this is a joke and stuff? Maybe I'm looking into him too much. Maybe that nickname Harry Bush isn't a big deal, and maybe he goes out there and wins this fight. But I just wouldn't see a guy like, I don't see Russians like, making fun of themselves. It's good to have self-deprecating humor. It's good to be able to laugh at yourself, but to laugh at your career, and I don't know. I don't know. Vibes like that just make me feel like maybe, you know, he's trying to be more of a comedian than he is trying to actually make a run in the UFC. But that being said, look, the kid hits hard. He's got decent wrestling. I think he can come out here and, you know, put up a, you know, I think that he's going to come out here, get some takedowns early. And in the early going, the takedowns are going to be easy to come. But as the fight progresses, that's when it's going to start to be tougher to take this kid down. That's when he's going to start shooting from a mile out. That's when he's going to be forced to stand with him. And once that happens, that's when I think Borshev is going to knock him out. So, yeah, give me the Russian to come out here and put the hands on Dakota Bush.
Yeah, you know, this is a tough fight. Bush really wasn't that impressed. He had a really awkward style with the kicks. Seemed like almost kind of reminded me of Oliver Enkamp. Like just
he just lost in Bellator, by the way.
You know, just kind of gassed himself out with the kicks against Austin Hubbard, but he did take that fight on short notice, and you know, it kind of probably wasn't his 100% best. I know he's been with Krause and them for this camp, and this Borshev, look, like, I know he's Russian, but in my opinion, I wouldn't compare him to, you know, a typical Daggy or, you know, a dude actually, like, this guy is more on the lesser side, in my opinion, just my personal opinion.
Well, he can't wrestle.
He definitely had, you know, a good performance, some accurate striking. I wouldn't say it's like fast or the most powerful, but definitely accurate and pinpoint. But, you know, just athletically speaking, you know, he's 29, but he kind of, the way he was moving and kind of remind you like he's on the older side, but he's definitely a guy that gets better progressively. It's a tough fight, man, because I could see Dakota Bush's just, I feel like he's a lot more agile, a lot more loose, a lot faster, especially early. It's just, man, on his regional scene, he kind of really didn't fight anybody per se. Knocked out like maybe like one decent guy, honestly, like a couple. Yeah. No, he had some good ones actually, you know. But you know, I really wasn't impressed with either guy, to be honest, man. I think the line should be close to a pick 'em, honestly. Like, Borshev is slow in my opinion. He's got some accurate striking, but I could see guys overwhelming him with just like, I don't think he's one of these like top-notch Russians at all. But yeah, and you know, I do think he should be slightly favored, but you know, we'll see what happens. What's up, Nate? And then but then, you know, Bush on the other hand, man, like Austin Hubbard, you know, is probably one of the most harmless guys out there, and he kind of had his way with them. So I mean, we'll see. But that knockout he had against that kid was just walking forward, eating shots. He was from like Wales or Scotland, Scotland, yeah, because Paul Craig did his little video thing. But that kid was just walking forward, eating shots. Like, it was terrible.
Let me say this to Dakota Bush's credit. That the Hubbard fight, he did kind of take on like 6-day notice.
He was on short notice.
He had a full camp for this one, so maybe we see.
Yeah, I think it should be like close. Like, this guy, you know how they say if his name was Viacheslav Johnson, you know, it would, you know, be like.
All right. So who are you going with?
I'm going with Dakota Bush in the upset.
Okay, I like it. Next up in the flyweight division, we got a rematch between Katlyn Chookagian, who's 16-4, and Jennifer Maia, who's 19-7. And currently, they got Katlyn Chookagian -180. The comeback on Jennifer Maia's +155. So I rewatched their first fight. Katlyn Chookagian choked her the first 2 rounds. Third round, Maia came to her senses, took her down, clearly won that third round. So this is one of those spots where I think it's Jennifer Maia who can make the more adjustments here. I think we kind of know what Katlyn Chookagian's game is by now. I mean, she's going to run around the ring, throw those punches at the air, make the tennis sounds. And, you know, I am being a little facetious. I mean, she is pretty damn effective, and she's been in the top 5 of her weight class for a while.
Yeah, she marks girls' faces
for a reason. So, I mean, you know, you got to give her some respect, but it's still fun to talk about the tennis sounds. Because I mean, it goes a long way with the judges. Even if you're punching the air, like, and they hear those sounds, oh, that must have landed. So I think that Jennifer Maia has got to come out here and make the adjustments, and I think the adjustments are there to be made, man. I mean, we're talking about a chick who actually went out there and won a round on Valentina and held her down the entire round. Also held down Katlyn Chookagian for a while in that third round. So basically, if she can come out here and just implement that game plan earlier in the fight, I think there is a path to victory for Maia to come out here and get this upset. It's just my concern, Shaq, is getting choked, right? I mean, that's always got to be your concern in a fight like this. So yeah, I mean, I think while it's at distance, Katlyn is going to be racking up the points. It's just I'm curious about how much top control Maia can get along the way to possibly get this upset. So I'm not fucking sure, man. I mean, I would lean Chookagian to edge 2 rounds, but like, it's not going to surprise me one bit if Maia comes out here with a better game plan, with the better adjustments, and comes out here and wins 2 of these rounds. So I think this is another one that maybe should be lined closer. I lean Chook, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I could see Maia winning this.
Yeah, it's gonna be, these are 2 of the top 5 girls in the division, and Jennifer Maia, she's been having better performances. When she initially came in, she was missing weight every fight. Like for that fight, she missed weight. She missed weight for like a couple other ones too. I mean, but now you see her, she's looking a lot slimmer, a lot trimmer, and she's been performing better. I mean, she won the round against Valentina. She didn't really even get like fucked up at all, really. Like it was, Valentina was coming off of surgery, but like, her typical that fight kind of lit a fire under her, because you saw what she did to the next 2 people.
And Joanne Calderwood changed her last name after that ass whooping.
Yeah, but no, I was talking about what Valentina did to her last fight.
I know, I just had to get that out.
Oh there. Yeah, but Calderwood got smoked, and that was a great performance.
You saw who Calderwood's fighting next?
Grasso. Yeah,
Grasso.
But it's a tough matchup, because I feel like Maia has the skills, but their shoot box style, she kind of likes to stand on the outside a lot, and Chook's long, and she's got long arms, long legs, and you already know how how she is with the sounds and the tennis sounds and the grunts and the hee-haws and all that good stuff. So and it works, because when you hear the scorecards, it's like, damn, this fight wasn't even that close. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you think it's a close back and forth fight, and it's 30-27. The Araujo fight, honestly, I scored that for Chookagian 2-1, but a few judges had it 30-27, and I thought there was one round where she clearly lost, but she just makes up for it with that volume on the feet, with that distance. But from a betting side of things, like, you keep playing with fire, and eventually, you'll get burned. And you can keep counting that she's gonna, win these decisions and all that stuff. But Jennifer Maia might not make it that close. I mean, I feel like Jennifer Maia hits harder. I feel like she's got the low kicks to possibly close the distance. She's very experienced, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and Chookagian has kind of hinted at in the past of, possibly, looking to step, to the side eventually, man. And I know Jennifer Maia doesn't have plans like that. She actually does follow Best Fight Picks official and me on Instagram. And man, this girl, she's been training very hard. She's been losing a lot of weight, and I think she might come out here and get the upset, man. I think she might be a little more hungrier. And like, the person that wins the first one, it's like, what kind of do you really have to gain from this? It's kind of like, I feel like when you get in there, it's going to be a lot more pressure, whereas Maia really kind of doesn't have much to lose, in my opinion. So I'm gonna go with Maia and upset by decision, I guess. Maia's gonna finally. She's lost a decision. She's lost decisions before. Shoot, she lost 2 splits to Jessica I and Liz Carmouche.
It's facts. Cannot debate that. So before we talk about the featured bout between Brandon Royval and Rogerio Bontorin, take my boy Rob Brown's advice and give us a like on this video. Shout out to my boy Rob. Hope you're doing well, brother. Yeah, cool ass dude. And we truly appreciate everybody's support, man. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let people know we're out here talking fights again. So next up, in the flyweight division, we got the aforementioned featured bout between Brandon Royval, who is 12-6, taking on Rogerio Bontorin, who is 17-3. And currently, they got Brandon Royval minus 170. The comeback on Rogerio Bontorin is plus 145. So initially, when this fight was announced, I was going into watching the tape, kind of thinking that Bontorin might be a live dog. And maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But here are my issues with Bontorin. Well, firstly, here's what I do like. I mean, the dude's explosive. The dude's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He hits fucking hard. He's experienced. He's fought some really good guys, and he's got wins over some really good guys. I mean, he beat what's the name of the Russian he beat in his debut? He beat Magomed Bibulatov. He beat Howley and Paiva, controversial or not. So, I mean, he beat Matt Schnell. So, I mean, the dude's got some solid ass wins. My issue with Rogerio Bontorin in this specific matchup is the kind of pace that Brandon Royval pushes. I just simply don't think that Bontorin can catch up with that. And I have heard people talk about how, well, Bontorin can mix in takedowns and neutralize him. And when I watch these Brandon Royval scrambles, yeah, maybe back in the day when he was kind of green and he fought Casey Kenny, he couldn't get up from bottom then. But from what I'm seeing now, yeah, just albeit he did get choked out by Pantoja, who's, you know, a guy who's got 2 wins over the champ, but still, like, the get-ups I saw, the scrambling ability I saw, like those are the kind of glimpses that I think, you know, are going to make a guy like Rogerio Bontorin start to, you know, make his gas tank start to fatigue, because Rogerio Bontorin, he needs to pace himself, man. He cuts massive amounts of weight. He's a big boy for that weight class, and as a result, he is going to fatigue in fights. Like, if you watch that Matt Schnell fight, like the first 4 minutes, like Rogerio Bontorin, like, hardly threw anything, man, and like that's not going to go well against a guy like Royval, who's literally in your face the entire time, throwing everything at you. My only issue with Royval is that as a result of him being a wild man, there's going to be openings there, you know. He does have that tall man defense, doesn't really move his head off that center line. So, yeah, he's going to get caught with some big shots from time to time. But as of right now, he's a young kid. His chin is on point. So I'm not worried about him going down yet. Maybe if he tries to fight like that against Manel Cap, then, you know, we got to worry about him hitting the deck. I don't think there's going to be that spot. So the angle for Rogerio Bontorin coming out here and neutralizing Royval, I think, yeah, maybe he can get a takedown or 2, but to actually hold down Royval, that's just where I'm struggling to really see Bontorin doing that. And with Bontorin's gassing issues, with his pace kind of being a little bit slower, I actually don't think this is a dog or pass situation, but I'm not saying it's favored or pass either. It's just kind of like lined accurately to me. Like, that's like, I consider Royval minus 170. So to me, there's not really too much value on either side. I would just sit back and enjoy this one. But my pick is Brandon Royval to outwork Rogerio Bontorin.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this fight probably more than anyone on the card, man. I've been a big Raw Dog fan since he was an LFA, and Bontorin been a fan of him as well. He had a very good Contender Series fight on Contender Series Brazil Season 1, and I mean, he, you know, he had the slip ups against Ray Borg. I think the weight is going to be the big issue with him. He misses weight. He's been missing weight. He missed weight for even 135s against Matt Schnell. So, you know, Bontorin is a big boy, and he and he kind of, man, he's the big issue I'm having with this fight is, man, I love Raw Dog, but I almost feel like sometimes the whole persona of being this wild man, it might get him in trouble. You know, I know he only lost to the champion Brandon Moreno, kind of by an injury, you know, and then the fight against Pantoja 100%. But there's a common theme in Raw Dog's fight. He's in bad positions. I mean, the fight starts and Brandon Raw Dog has his back taken. Now, and that's just the truth about it. And when you look at Bontorin's last few fights, I mean, he had Kai Kara France and one of his fights in a deep body triangle, and you know, Raw Dog's gonna have to really just get to the second and third round, man. If he can make it to the second and third round, I'm very confident he will overwhelm Rogerio Bontorin, and with the pace and the knees and the spins and the all type of crazy type of strikes he's going to throw. I don't think there's any way Bontorin's going to be able to handle that pace. But he, in the early goings, man, like, if Bontorin is fresh, I mean, this is going to be a serious jiu-jitsu attack that Raw Dog's going to have to go through. I mean, his neck is going to be getting, you know, squeezed very hard. I mean, that body triangle he had on Kai Kara France was very tight. I mean, Kai Kara France, props to him. He you know, weathered the storm and was able to land that big bomb as he's known for. So I think I would not play the minus 160, 170 range with him, just because like, I mean, he got submitted, the last 2 times in the Pantoja fight. I know Pantoja's a serious black belt, but Bontorin's got some black belt skills as well, man. But the other thing is, what happens when Bontorin comes in at 130 and then on fight night he's 150, and then he gets on top of Raw Dog, and we're like, oh boy, like, you know what I'm saying? Because let's just be honest here, I'd be shocked if Bontorin actually made weight. Like, if he makes weight, like, fine, then I'd honestly be worried about the fight, because that might mean he might actually be in shape for real. So, like, but Bontorin, at one point I was high on him, but when you hear about it, we'll see what happens at weigh-ins, man. So, I'm gonna take Raw Dog too, man. I've just been a bigger fan of that kid for a while, but I really do think, like, this kid, if he can just calm some of that stuff down, some of that wildness and putting himself in some of these positions, work on the wrestling, like, this kid's pace and striking at distance and the type of chances he's willing to take is going to lead him to a lot of success, a lot of money, a lot of fight of the nights, a lot of performances of the night. It's just like he has a major hole with the wrestling and putting and giving up his back, and it's a big worry in this fight. Like, Bontorin's gonna be on that back, so we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna go with Raw Dog to finish him in the 3rd round. But it's gonna be like a fight of the night type of fight.
I'm excited, man. Yeah. Co-main event of the evening in the heavyweight division, we got Chase Sherman. He's 15-8, taking on Jake Collier, who is 12-6. And currently they got Jake Collier, just depends where you look, minus 128. The comeback on Chase Sherman is plus 108. Everybody do us a favor, smash that like button. So Shaq, listen, this is not your conventional UFC co-main event, but I have a feeling it's going to be a fun fight, man. I mean, Chase Sherman with those nasty leg kicks. Jay Collier, he's actually got a little bit more volume for a heavyweight than most, considering the fact that he used to be a middleweight. Somehow put on 100 pounds, but he's still able to go out there and put up numbers. These two are going to stand and bang until one man falls or until it goes all 3 rounds and they put on a very exciting fight. I think that's why they put it in the co-main event. Well, I mean, granted, it was supposed to be Michelle Pereira versus Muslim Salikov, but the reason this is the backup, instead of, Katlyn versus, Maia, is for the reason that this is going to be an exciting fight. So, Shaq, how do you kind of see this one going down, man? Because, look, like I said, Collier has had the better volume, but Chase Sherman, man, he can chop people down with leg kicks. Has kind of gassed towards the end of fights. This has been something that's been going on for a long time. But, man, he's also a guy where you hit him with a baseball bat and he's still walking forward for the most part. I mean, unless it's that Walt Harris baseball bat. But aside from that, this dude will take your best shot and keep going forward. So, yeah, I got a lot of respect for both of them. But they're more of entertaining fighters to watch rather than like future contenders or anything. But still should be a fun fight. How you see it going now?
Yeah, I mean, Chase Sherman's got more, I guess, weapons. He's got the jab, he's got the low kicks, but he doesn't move his head. He gets hit a ton. And when fights get rough, as we've seen lately, like against my guy, big old Parker Porter, he was talking about titties and all this stuff, and Parker Porter had to show him what's up. But Parker is somewhat underrated. He's a very big boy. But Chase, we know what Chase is, man. He's just a fun fighter. This is gonna be a slobber knocker with Jake. I feel like Jake's kind of fits that mold, man. I think he's a little tougher. I mean, you see his last fight, he gave my boy Carlos, a permanent scar under that eye. I mean, he had to get a tattoo over it, actually. So, I mean, Jake can inflict damage. He's tough. It's just his cardio down the stretch might be his weakness. I mean, I don't know if Jake takes his diet that seriously, but I think he's the tougher guy. It's just down the stretch, if he's fatigued, the low kicks and the numbers, Chase, when Chase lands, it's going to be in, 3s and 4s and things like that. So Jake's going to be throwing, big one, a couple big shots. But, man, it's a tough fight, but I'm going to go with Jake Collier, man. I think he's going to get the job done. He looked good in his fight against Vellante. I know it's Vellante. Vellante had a good run, but Chase, his job's got to be on the line, right? I mean, this is it for probably both of them. This is gonna come down to who's hungry, and when I've seen fights down the stretch, I've seen Chase Sherman shy away. So I'm gonna go with Jay Collier.
Yeah, I mean, look, realistically, it could go either way, but I agree with you on this one, man. I am also going to go with Jay Collier. I think that he's got the higher work rate, despite what the numbers say. Like, because the numbers say that Chase Sherman actually throws more than Collier, but I'm not really convinced that that's true. But fuck all that stuff. I mean, in this fight, what really matters is who's going to be landing the effective strikes and who's going to be picking apart who. And I think that Jay Collier's technique is slightly better. You got to watch out for those big, brutal leg kicks of Chase Sherman. You also got to not gas out punching Chase Sherman in the face, because the dude is like a walking zombie at times. But this cardio drop off in those later rounds for Sherman is not just a new thing. It's something before he had his USADA bust and after he's had his USADA bust. So this has always been an issue with him, and that's where I think Collier can capitalize, despite the fact that Collier did somewhat slow down
he slowed down against
in that Felipe fight.
But boy, Felipe is a volume boxer, you know. It's
and I guess this might be a hot take, but because I know a lot of people bet Collier in that fight, so therefore, because they bet him, they think he won. Whereas, like, I didn't have a bet on that fight, and I straight up scored it for Felipe 2-1. But Felipe won the second and third round. All right, main event of the evening in the featherweight division with high implications. We got Calvin, the Boston finisher, Kattar. He's 22-5, taking out Giga, the Ninja Chikadze, who was 14-2. And currently, they got Giga Chikadze minus 230. The comeback on Calvin Kattar is plus 200. So, listen, I know you remember when Calvin Kattar made his UFC debut against Andre Fili, and we went on here on the show. I said, do not parlay Andre Fili. And now it might be like, oh yeah, genius, no shit. But at the time, Andre Fili was like minus 3 something, and
Andre Fili was on the roll.
Andre Fili was everybody's parlay leg. So I've known about Kattar since day one, man. I actually had him on Half the Battle before he was even in the UFC. And I said that one day he will be a top 5 guy, and now he's number 5 on planet Earth. And he did what I thought he was going to do. You know, some guys I think are going to be future world champions. Some guys I think will never crack the rankings. Kattar, I said, will be a future top 5 guy. He's currently number 5. And I think that this is, you know, with all due respect, where it ends in terms of how high he's going to climb up the ranks, you know, because firstly, I mean, when you talk about Kattar's tools, I mean, the jab and that nasty, that money right hand, that step through right hand that's floored so many of his opponents, man. I mean, the dude's got knockout wins over Shane Burgos, knockout wins over Ricardo Lamas, beat Dan Ige, just knocked Jeremy Stevens into the 5th dimension. I mean, like, I got Kattar's got all my respect, man. And then to take it a step further, you watch that last fight with Holloway, where Holloway broke the UFC record for significant strikes landed and thrown in a single fight. And while defensively speaking, it's extremely worrisome for Calvin, but just as a man and as a dude with balls and as a dude with heart, I mean, I got nothing but respect for Calvin Kattar. I mean, the dude wasn't willing to take a knee for nobody. I mean, if you wouldn't have answered the bell between rounds, none of us would have held it against him, man. But that's the kind of warrior he is. He's truly willing to die in there. So Calvin's got nothing but the utmost respect from me, and I think he's a true badass, and he's one of my favorite fighters. And I think that despite what happened Saturday night, he's going to come back and still win some more fights. So Calvin, you got all my respect. It's just stylistically speaking, I just don't see how a one-dimensional boxer with a negative strike ratio can beat Giga Chikadze in a fight. Look, anything can happen. It's MMA. I mean, Calvin's got that money right hand that's won him so many UFC fights and had him knock out a ton of great contenders in the division, and he's gotten to number 5 in the world for a reason. It's just that stylistically speaking, I mean, I saw Moicano go out there and put a kickboxing clinic on this guy. Even in some of his wins, I saw Chris Fishgold tag him up in that early going. I saw Jeremy Stevens tag him up in that early going. And while you might be able to get away with those things against guys like Chris Fishgold and Jeremy Stevens, who's at the end of his career, I just simply think when Giga starts putting it on you, that it's just a different level. And Calvin keeps his hands up nice and high. That means that long torso is going to be open right there for that Giga kick to the body. I saw Calvin wobbling all over the place to head kicks from Max Holloway. But we know Max Holloway is not really known for that one-hitter quitter. He's more so known for breaking the record for strikes landed. He's an amazing volume striker, and he'll break you down death by 1,000 cuts. But Giga, it's only going to take one big kick. It's only going to take one big punch to actually be the first man in MMA history to give Kattar a stoppage loss to strikes. So yeah, the concerns are what happens if this fight hits the later rounds, because in the past Giga has gassed. And also, what about Giga's ground game? But let me address both those things. Giga said that he massively stepped up his strength and conditioning program after, you know, a couple of those early fights where he may have gassed in the later rounds. And he took it seriously. Like he listened to what everyone had to say about that, and he addressed it. I mean, those are the kind of things I like to see. And people hold it against him that when he was 5-1, he lost to a bum on contender series. Guys, he's 14-2 now. But to take it a step further, like, so what if he lost to a bum when he was 5-1? Kamaru Usman got submitted by a bum a long ass time ago. Like, these are part of the growing pains that get you to the position you're going to be in if you're truly destined to be something great. And I think that Giga is destined to be something great, because when he fought the two toughest opponents of his career in Swanson and Edson, I mean, you saw how he handled them. And then to address the whole ground game thing, I mean, after the Austin Springer fight, I mean, the guy, now he's competing in grappling tournaments. He's actually a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So that this isn't, people think it's a situation where it's like Randy Couture, James Toney. Oh, just take him down one time. The fight's going to be over shortly after. And not only am I not convinced that Calvin's not going to get takedowns, I think that if he does, there might be something waiting for him. I know my boy Shaq remembers that anaconda attempt that he had on Edson Barboza. That shows me a guy that's evolving, that's taking all parts of the game seriously, because he entered the sport as just a kickboxer. Now I think that he's an MMA fighter, and I think that he's ready to get his title shot. So Saturday night, all due respect to Kattar, but I think Giga is going to come out here and light him up. I think the ways that Giga loses this fight is from whooping on Calvin so bad that he gasses, and Calvin comes back and lands that money right hand that's put down so many people in the past, or or if Giga underestimates, which doesn't seem to be the case based off the way he's talking. He's showing Calvin a lot of respect. So I think this is going to be methodical. I think it's going to be pinpoint. I think it's going to be precise. And Saturday night, I think Giga Chikadze is going to be the first man in MMA history to finish Calvin Kattar via strikes. And I think he's going to open a lot of eyes. So yeah, give me Giga Chikadze. I put 5 units on him at -215.
Yeah, it's a great fight. I honestly just think it's a you got a boxer versus a kickboxer, and I don't think it's this it's just more so of trending, man. Like Calvin Kattar, when you look at his last few performances, it's been all high level fights. He fought Zabit in Russia, he fought Jeremy Stevens, a legend in Abu Dhabi, who was ranked high at the time. He fought no, I was in I was in Florida, actually, my bad, Jacksonville. I believe. But he fought Dan Ige and main event, and then he fought Max Holloway main event. And I feel like that was kind of our appraisal to see if Calvin Kattar is really
You're right.
It was really a title challenger, and I just came off as, nah, man. I think that he's a very good boxer, but I don't think he really presents any much weapons elsewhere. I know a lot of people are saying he's going to come for the takedowns. Okay, we'll see. I mean, that's not something he really does in his fights. You want to use that style. When that doesn't work out, then, you're already kind of falling back. I just think that, look, the only way he can win this fight is by knockout, in my opinion. I think that Giga's gonna, this whole cardio thing, I'm not convinced, man. I think that he's, gotten better with that. I think that the fights honestly just haven't even been getting to that point. He's so confident in his distance and his range and his striking. I mean, he was the underdog to Edson Barboza. We can say, oh, Edson's slow and old and all this stuff.
Edson's slow? I haven't heard that one.
But he made him. He outclassed him from bell to bell. Edson might have stole the second round towards the end, but I mean, Giga Chikadze, he found that second win, and he was able to come back and implement his game and finish him, not just, win a close decision. Like I've seen other guys have tests against Edson, whether that be Dan Hooker, Shane Burgos, a lot of guys, man, and the fights didn't go that well, man. So I think that Giga Chikadze has proven that he's made these improvements in his game. And Calvin, he's gonna probably try to slow cook him and try to, stay close and get to the late rounds and see if he can land a big bomb. But when you look at his fights against Dan Ige, even in the pocket exchanges, Dan Ige doesn't really present that much threats. He's more of a hustler, a jiu-jitsu guy, and Calvin got bloodied up and was getting touched in times, man.
Jeremy fight too.
And Jeremy Stevens fight, he was getting touched as well. I think he's more of the traditional boxer that's willing to bang in the pocket with guys, and I just feel like Giga Chikadze is the type of guy that he's seen that style so many times. So I think this is a tailor-made matchup for him. I think things are trending a lot in his favor. Calvin Kattar, he's been real quiet. We don't know how much that Max Holloway fight affected him. And I'm not saying that he's, a broken man or doing, like any of that thing, but I'm just saying like that was a lot, man. That was, I mean, fight could have got stopped multiple times. I mean, he took how many strikes, and now he's coming back to the another tough striker, man, a guy footwork tough to deal with. So I think Kattar, honestly, the big question here is, can Giga go 5 rounds without getting knocked out or falling apart down the stretch? Calvin Kattar is a very durable guy. Even Holloway landed all those strikes, he still stayed in there, so props to him. It's really just, can Giga go 5 rounds? I think the way Giga's trending and performing and the way he's locked in right now, I think he can. I honestly am not convinced. I know Calvin's got good hands, but I'm not convinced that Giga is far behind. Like the way he sets up his hands is very hard to deal with, mixed in with the kicks. Like, Calvin's got good hands, but he's been getting touched in some of these fights, man. What happened when he fought Hanato Moicano? Like Hanato was jabbing his head off and boxing with him in the pocket, mixing the low kicks in as well. So, I'm going to go with Giga Chikadze here. I just think he's the better striker. I don't see Calvin going for the takedowns. And I think Giga can grapple too, man. I think, he swept Jamal Emmers. For all the people that said he gassed out, he also swept him. He had the Anaconda attempt on Edson Barbosa. I feel like this guy's showing everything in each category, man. So I'm going with Giga.
Yeah, I mean, I already said this earlier, but listen, if a one-dimensional boxer with a negative strike ratio beats Giga in a fight, then hey, props. I mean, I already think Calvin's a badass. He has all my respect in the world. But yeah, I got to go with Giga here. And I like the fact that Giga breaks you down with the kicks, and then once you start kind of stationary planting yourself against the fence, that's when he really sits down on his punches. And I mean, you see people wobbling all over the place. So, and I think the cardio thing might be a bit of a stretch. I mean, you didn't look like there was a cardio issue.
They were saying that Marvin Vittori had a cardio issue. I was like, how?
I didn't see a cardio issue in that 3rd round when he was knocking Edson Barboza all over the place. I didn't see a cardio issue in that 3rd round when he dropped Omar Morales. Yeah, there might have been a cardio issue in his first 2 UFC fights when he was getting his feet wet. But now I think that he's paid his dues, and now I feel like he thinks that the octagon is his home. So I think it's his time to shine, and that's with all due respect to Kattar, who, I mean, is a guy. I mean, I got nothing but good things to say about Kattar. It's just, I think it's Giga's time, and stylistically speaking, which is what really matters here, I think it's a tough matchup for Kattar. So let's see what happens. Giga is the pick and the bet for me. All right, Shaq. Well, before we get out of here, firstly, thank you everybody for being here with us. We truly appreciate it. Y'all do us a favor, smash that like button and the subscribe button. And Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 46?
My fight to watch is Royval versus Bontorin, the flyweights. The flyweights always bring it. Raw Dog always brings it. Bontorin, very powerful black belt. This is a big test for Royval. We can't, he can't lose 3 in a row. I mean, this is a big fight. So I'm expecting him to come the best he ever has. And Bontorin, I mean, he needs to make up for all these weight misses. I know he wants to get back into contention. So that's the fight I'm looking for.
Yeah, for me, I got to go with Joanderson, Brito versus Bill Algeo. I think Brito is a super bright prospect. I'm excited to see what he's able to do in the featherweight division with his physicality, with his explosiveness, with his relentlessness. And then Bill Algeo is a guy who never stops, who keeps going forward, who's underrated, who's experienced, who's a cardio machine, who doesn't take no for an answer. So for that reason, Brito versus Algeo is my fight to watch. I just expect it to be fireworks. Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for the first event of 2022?
A fighter to watch is gonna be Ramiz Brahimaj, man. He's got a good fight here against Court McGee. You know, he's one of these younger guys up in the welterweight division, and Court McGee's that win. If you beat Court McGee, man, that means there's gonna be green pastures ahead, man. Court McGee is one of the guys that's been around for a very long time, very tough, doesn't get finished often. And to beat him in your third UFC fight, that would be a big statement, man. So Ramiz, let's see what he does on Saturday. He's my fighter to watch.
Yeah, for me, my fighter to watch is actually in the main event. Giga Chikadze, man. I think that despite the win streak, despite the spots, I think people don't actually take him as seriously as they should, because when he was 5-1, he lost to a bum on Contender Series. He's fucking 14-2 now. Kamaru Usman lost to a bum. When Ramsey Nijam Beneil Dariush got knocked out by Ramsey Nijam in his second fight. Like, dude, like, these are growing pains. Shit happens. They're getting into fist fights. But I think that the form of Giga Chikadze now is someone that if he comes out here and not just beats Calvin, but beats him impressively, I mean, you're looking at the guy who's going to fight the winner of Zombie and Volkanovski. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see what Giga does, and for that reason, he's my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down this Saturday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. They can follow you at MMA Genius 05 on Twitter. They can follow me at BestFightPicks. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. We truly appreciate everybody that joined us and everybody in the chat. Y'all are super passionate about the fights, and that's what we love, man. I mean, we don't have to agree or disagree on things, but as long as everybody's respectful and they just share that genuine passion and love for the sport, then that's what it's all about. So thank you guys again. Again, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, retweet our tweets. Feel free to share this. Like, let people know we're out here doing this again. So we truly appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. Check out our sponsor, PrizePicks. Download their app or go to prizepicks.com and use that code BATTLE for the 100% deposit match up to $100. We'll be back next week for the very epic Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane heavyweight title unification bout. I mean, and that whole card is fucking stacked. So can't wait to do that and be back to talk about those fights. Thank you guys again. Thank you, Shaq. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.